Hello and welcome to another session of Office Hours. My name is Adrian. I am the CEO and founder of Groundhogg. And today we are going to be talking about setting up lead distribution in this session of Office Hours. This is Office Hours number 55, so we've been doing it for quite some time and we're into year 2 of Office Hours. So super exciting right at the beginning. We know a little bit about what we're doing at this point. So stick around, follow along. Maybe you'll learn something, and we have a Q&A section at the end. So this session is, of course, being recorded and will be posted to YouTube as well as Groundhogg Academy, and the recording is also made available right here in Facebook if that's where you're watching this. So please keep note that anything that you post in the chat may or may not be recorded because I repeat all the questions live here on the call. So speaking of asking questions, that is exactly what this Office Hour session is for. It is for you to get your burning questions answered. You can use the comment thread of the Facebook Live video in order to ask your question. What I do is then repeat your question live and then do my best to answer it to the best of my abilities. If I cannot provide an answer for you, I will point you in the direction of someone who may have the answer for you, or at least give you the next steps in order to go seeking that answer. So don't be shy. There are no bad questions. There are no silly questions. We are all coming from different walks of life and at different stages in our business and our digital marketing training. So I want to let everybody know that this is a safe space and all questions and all topics are up for grabs. So a little quick announcement. In 3 days, today's Tuesday, Wednesday. So on Thursday, so in 2 days, we will be having a webinar with Ryan Moore, who is the the director of Uncanny Owl, the creators of the Uncanny Automator plugin, which is kind of like a Zapier plugin that you install on WordPress. So it's self-hosted and it's really, really cool, and it's much less expensive than paying for all those Zapier Premium Zapier Premium integrations. So this is going to be a really, really cool call. They have a really, really awesome Groundhogg integration, which they've built, plus they're adding more to it from what I understand. And we're going to be walking you through a ton of the crazy things that you can automate with Uncanny Automator and Groundhogg working together. It's going to be a super awesome 1-hour presentation. That is going to be at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 27th, which is this Thursday. And for anybody who really likes what they see, there will be a webinar pricing only special, which Uncanny Automator has agreed to graciously provide. So if you want to find out more about that, make sure that you are on the call 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The link to register is in the group, but I will also provide it here. Let me just pull it up quickly because I didn't do that ahead of time. Oh, here it is. I made it easy for myself, which I like. I like when past me thinks about future me. There we go. And I see a couple questions from Chris. I'm actually going to answer both of those questions in short succession, Chris. So just hold on 1 second. So let's talk about setting up lead distribution. Chris has asked the question, how do you define lead distribution? Well, there are a couple ways to define it. I'm going to be covering 2 specific examples in this office hour session. The first of which we're just going to be calling round robin distribution, which is taking an equivalent lead and distributing among a number of sales managers that you might have. The second kind of distribution I'm going to call department distribution, where you are sending leads to specific departments within your business. So maybe it's like if you're a massive conglomerate and you're just collecting leads on your contact page and you want to send them to sales or HR, well, how do you send that person to the correct department within Groundhogg from a single entry point? So those are the 2 kinds of lead to distribution that we're going to be covering today, starting off with round robin, which is actually the much easier of the 2 to set up, but not impossible. So for this, you're only going to need the Groundhogg core. No extensions for this type of distribution are necessary. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, at this point, hop over to a Groundhogg installation where I have a funnel started. So for this type of distribution, let's say you have a lead request form and it's just a standard form, maybe a quote form that you have on your website somewhere. It doesn't really matter the information that you collect here. Groundhogg has what we call an owner system. And contact owners are based on user roles that you set up. So if I go to the users area, I can add additional users to this particular installation. So let's say I want to name or provide access to Joe, and I'm just going to call him Joe, and his email address is going to be joe@groundhogg.io. Groundhogg adds several user roles to WordPress, and those are sales representative, which is kind of like the lowest level sales rep role. There are sales managers who are typically responsible for managing sales representatives. There's also the marketer role, which is basically what you would use to provide access to someone who was managing your Groundhogg funnels, maybe an agency. So those are the three roles that we add. So I'm going to give Joe the role of sales representative. And what this will do is it will allow me to assign this person as a contact owner so that they can log into WordPress and only see parts of Groundhogg and their contacts. So this makes it super easy for separating contacts between different users. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to add this person. I'm going to go ahead and add Joe. Apparently usernames must be at least 4 characters, so I'm going to name him Joel instead. So Joel is going to be a new sales representative. Apparently the confirmation link has to be created, which is kind of bogus. I'm not going to go through that process. Okay, well I'm gonna go ahead and skip that part, and what I'm gonna do instead is I'm just gonna go back to my funnel here. And let's just assume Joel was created for the sake of argument, so I don't have to go through the whole confirmation link process. So once someone submits the link and you have all of your sales reps, 2, 3, 4, maybe even 10, fortunately Groundhogg does not have an upper limit on the number of sales reps that you can have, unlike other software as a service applications. We can go ahead after the lead magnet. We're going to add an apply owner step. This is included in the core version of Groundhogg, which is really nice. So under actions, we have the apply owner step, which is right there. And you're just going to go ahead and you're going to open that and click that. And that's going to add this step to the funnel. Now here, all we need to do is we need to select an owner that we actually want to add. Okay. So if we select one owner, this means that every contact that goes through this funnel will be assigned to this particular user. However, if you select more than one owner, and unfortunately I can't show you because it needs me to go through the whole confirmation process, it would actually round robin to each owner equally. So you could set up one lead goes to John, one lead goes to Joe, one lead goes to Sarah, whoever, and that just makes it super easy to equally distribute leads. You may be asking, well, how do we unequally distribute leads? Unfortunately, we don't have a system for that at this time. It's a pending feature request. But if you're okay with equal lead distribution, then this is definitely the easiest way to go about it. You just select multiple owners in this select box here, and it will evenly distribute those leads to every single person. Now, in order to either identify those leads to the sales representative, you might want to be able to, or you might want to send something like an admin notifications. And what you can do is you can use the send to field, and you can put the owner email replacement code here instead. So if I go ahead and do that, so I select the owner email replacement code. This will merge in the owner's email, the contact owner's email rather, and it is going to send to the person that we just assigned in the previous step. So super nifty, super easy, and probably the fastest method of doing standard lead distribution in a sales heavy business. So that is what I'm basically the spiel for round robin distribution. I'm going to hold 30 seconds for questions. We're going to see if any questions come in about this particular method of lead distribution, and if not, we're going to go into the little bit more complex ones. So I am going to pause for 30 seconds, leave your questions in the comments. No questions, we're just going to move on. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, so we're just going to move on swiftly to tackling the second distribution method, which I'm going to refer to as department distribution. Now, department distribution is a little bit more complicated to set up, but not impossible. Department distribution is when you have a single point of entry, let's say your contact page, but you need to send that notification to specific departments within your larger business. Say you have sales, say you have membership, say you have support. You need to send this email or send a notification to this person based on a selection within a form. So I am going to go ahead and open up my other funnel, which I'm calling department distribution. So for this example, what we're going to do is we're going to have a single entry point, so a single form, and depending on a selection within the form, you're going to send the lead to either the sales department or the HR department. Now, this might be on a contact page, this may be somewhere else. It's really up to you. There's lots of different ways that you can think about it. I know someone in our organization is doing this to send leads to 5 different departments within their club. So this is a very robust method, and I think once you get the hang of it, a rather simple method to set up. So it starts by modifying the form. So I have my standard form fields here, first name, last name, email address. You can add what other custom fields that you want to this particular form. However, I'm going to skip that, and I'm just going to add the one that we need. And this is going to be the field that defines where this notification or where this lead will be sent to. So let's go ahead and add a row. I'm going to add a column. We're just going to make it full width. And we are going to add a radio button. So I'm just going to click on radio here, and this is going to allow us to define some radio options. So I'm going to make this a required field, and I'm going to just ask, who would you like to contact? There we go. We need a custom field name. I'm just going to put contact type for now, or department type. I am going to add a few options. So I have 2 options. I'm going to put sales and HR. So for our sales department and our human resources department. There we go. And then I can leave the rest of it blank. So I'm going to go ahead and insert that field. And there we go. So we have our radio button here. Let's go ahead and save that, and then we can go ahead and preview it. So there we go. We now have a radio field for who would you like to contact, sales or human resources. Awesome. So go ahead and close that. So now what we need to do is now we need to actually create the automation that's going to send an admin notification with this person's details to the correct person. So I have 2 admin notifications in my here. I have sales and I have HR. Now, normally if I have this configured without our conditional logic extension, which is, by the way, required for this, I should mention that. So for this particular funnel, you're going to need advanced features, advanced custom meta fields, and conditional logic. So with the conditional logic extension, I can actually select whether I want to choose to send the sales admin notification or if I choose the HR department notification. So the way that I do that is this value here, the department type custom field, which I've just created here, which will be created dynamically so you don't have to worry about adding it anywhere else, will be set to either sales or human resources depending on the value that they select. So for the sales department notification, what you're going to do is you're going to obviously configure the admin notification to the correct person's details. So sales@groundhogg.io or sales@yourbusiness.com.io. Configure it, and at the bottom there is a little checkbox when you have the conditional logic extension enabled to enable conditional logic. So we're going to go ahead and enable that. It's going to automatically show this form here. So, and we are going to select the following conditions. Run if the contact passes any conditions, otherwise skip this step. So we don't want to run, essentially this is the default configuration. We don't want to run this step if the person doesn't pass the below conditions. So we are going to select from our type of condition, we are going to select the meta condition. And it's not looking like I have any available meta fields. This could be for a variety of reasons. So what I'm going to do is ignore that, save. I'm going to go back to my lead request form, and I'm going to quickly just generate the meta field, because those meta fields are picked based on them actually being in the table. So I'm just going to select sales, submit, because it's not active. Active, preview. Just go ahead and quickly fill out this information. No, I messed up. That's unfortunate. I hate the back button. The back button always messes me up. So I'm gonna have to quickly recreate this field, unfortunately. Okay, let's go ahead and save that. And it's active. Go ahead and test that out. Sales. There we go. Okay, that worked. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark this back as inactive. Okay, so ignoring that small detour that I had to take there for a moment, we need to now configure our conditional logic. So from the meta, I can now select a few things here. So let's go ahead and select department type. Department type from the form, and I can now check if that's equal to one of the values that they set in the form. So that was either sales or human resources, as we can see here, sales or human resources. So if the department type they selected in the form is equal to sales, then this step will run. So let's go ahead and save that. Save. And then for the HR department, we can do the same thing. So we can go ahead and enable conditional logic after, of course, you've correctly configured your admin notification to do whatever it is that you wanted. We will select any condition, otherwise skip this step. We are going to select meta from the type. So it runs based off of the contact's meta. We can select department type, and then we can set this equal to human resources, just like that, and save. And you can do this for an unlimited number of admin notifications for as many options as you have in the form. And you can continue to just skip the step if it's not, if it doesn't match those conditions, to run the correct admin notification. And you can do this beyond other admin notifications, or sorry, other steps as well. So if you wanted to run it for specific apply tag steps or specific email steps for specific follow-up sequences, you can run any of these steps based on the conditions of which department type or which fields that they chose in the form. So that's a cool way of doing some advanced logic stuff in Groundhogg without the whole branching thing. You just select your conditions, choose which step that you want to run. You can also define how you want the actual funnel to behave. So if I wanted to skip over an entire part of the funnel, I could select the skip to option and then select whichever step I wanted to go to in that particular funnel. So cool stuff here. All in all, I hope this is helpful. I'm going to pause for 30 seconds to questions specifically related to department distribution of the leads. And if there are no questions, I see a few questions cropping up in the chat that are not specifically related to this topic. So what we can do is we can go ahead and skip and go into those questions. Andrew Zimble says, can you have a salesperson's name instead of department type? Yes, you can. So if I wanted to add another field here, and instead of doing which department do you need, and I wanted to choose name, I could absolutely do that. So let's go ahead and create a new field. Add a new column. And let's go ahead and add a field here. And that field will be a radio button required. So which person would you like to talk to? You can select the person's name. Call it salesperson's choice or whatever. There we go. I can choose Samantha, or I can choose Jesse, or I can choose Andrew. Let me go ahead and insert that field. And from here, you'll be able to map the specific person using the exact same method of choosing the salesperson name equals to Samantha. And then you'd be able to send that person that lead, or even assign them as an owner in Groundhogg using the apply owner step in conjunction with the enable conditional logic. So totally doable, Andrew. I hope what I just did makes a little bit of sense to you, but totally doable. For sure, for sure. Thank you for asking. Okay, so yeah, I see a few people wanting to kind of jump the gun here and get into the Q&A session. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it on the lead distribution methods. I hope that was helpful. I hope you learned something, and I hope someone finds this useful. So what we're going to do now is we're going to jump into our questions and answer period, where we just have a general Q&A for anything related to Groundhogg, anything related to marketing, best practices, and so on and so forth. So leave your questions in the comments. What I do is I repeat them, and then I do my best to answer them. If I don't have an answer, I'm going to do my best to put you in the direction where you can get one from maybe somebody else. There are no silly questions. Everybody comes onto office hours at different stages of their Groundhogg development per se, different stages of understanding, some new customers, some customers which have been around for a much longer time. So I want to let everybody know that this is a safe space. All questions are created equal here, and we're all going to do our best to answer your question no matter what it is. All right. So let's start with Pierre. So Pierre is asking about the whole cron job stuff. Pierre, I understand that cron can be a little tricky to get started with. Fortunately, we have an immense amount of documentation, as well as I did an office hour session for cron not too long ago. So let me see if I can pull that up for you. And rather than spending the 10 to 15 minutes to go through that all again, I'm going to see if I can just send you this recording. And it's actually right in Facebook here. So Pierre, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you this recording, and it's an entire office hour session directly related to cron. For anybody who didn't know, you can access all previously recorded office hours directly from our Facebook group. So if you go to, where is it? If I click back, will it work? No, of course not. Right, okay. So for anybody interested, you can access all previous office hours recording directly from the videos tab within the group itself before they are posted to either YouTube or Groundhogg Academy. So which number is this? Number 50 is all about that cron. So that will walk you through all of the various different complications that people have encountered with cron before and all of the various different ways that you can work around it. So Pierre, I hope this provides you a little bit of guidance and a little bit of direction and a little bit of help. If you continue to have problems even after watching this video, then my recommendation would be to contact our support team and they'll get you set up. I have a question from Rick. Rick is asking, I just purchased the WaaS Plan. Well, welcome to the community, Rick. It's lovely to have you. But I have a client that I just sold on Groundhogg who is not a multi-use site. She is already hosted on her own hosting. Not sure if I can use the WaaS license for that and resell it to her. I need a different version of the plan. Looking for guidance. So if you have the WaaS Plan, you can only activate it on a multi-site installation once. So it's valid for an unlimited number of subsites on one specific WaaS installation, Rick. So if you want to be a Groundhogg reseller and you'd like to use Groundhogg for your clients, then what you need is the agency license, because that's essentially what you're at that point, is an agency. And that can be found, of course, on our pricing page, and that is at an additional cost. So you can use the WaaS license for an unlimited number of subsites on a multi-site. The agency license is for those of you who would like to use Groundhogg on your client sites and essentially at that point be a reseller. So the agency plan right there is what you're looking for at this point, Rick. Hopefully that answers your question. Pierre has a follow-up about the cron thing. He's asking, I use Cloudflare, could that be causing an issue? I'm not a Cloudflare expert by any stretch of the imagination. I use Google's CDN, which seems to be working okay for me, so I don't have to deal with a whole bunch of like technical nonsense. It should not have an effect, but there is Cloudflare WordPress specific setup that you might want to consider. So there's a Cloudflare WordPress plugin. And what you can do is you can install the Cloudflare WordPress plugin, and it has a button to automatically configure Cloudflare for the best settings for WordPress. So you may want to do this, and but even with the basic default Cloudflare settings, I have not yet experienced an issue specifically with cron. There does come an issue with the email preferences center, which you have to exclude in Cloudflare. So that's something, but the details to do that will be in this article that I just sent to you. Rick says, yes, that looks exactly what I need, the agency license. Yes, Rick, that's exactly what you need. Reseller for single site installations. So I'm glad that sorted you out there. Matt Fraser says, I use ClickFunnels with Groundhogg and have no issues. That's because I suppose that's relevant because ClickFunnels uses Cloudflare. So yeah, there shouldn't be any issues that I believe. Okay, Andrew Zimble is asking, we quote in a different software that doesn't connect with Groundhogg yet. I would like to set up a funnel that salespeople would start and then would follow up automatically. Would I use an admin notification? Okay, I understand. So your salespeople would would enter someone's contact information and start the funnel. I see. So in that case, if your salespeople are starting off the funnel, you can continue to use the lead magnet request form, and you can stick that on a page somewhere that only your salespeople have access to, and then send emails, automatic follow-up emails to the client as well as the user. So totally doable. You don't necessarily need to use an admin notification for that, although if you're sending follow-up reminders to the salespeople as well, then yes, you'd need to use an admin notification. What you might want to do is add all of your salespeople into Groundhogg as sales representatives, which I briefly showed by creating new user accounts for them and choosing the sales representative role. That way, when they enter their information, you can apply the correct owner and that will then make creating admin notifications and sending them to the correct person easier. That will make sending the emails to the customer easier from the specific person. So lots of ways that you can configure that using the lead distribution method that I showed you. Rick Callahan is asking about WP Simple Chat. So WP Simple Chat is what we use on our site for our little chat pop-up, which we make actually. So WP Simple Chat is something that I wrote in an afternoon and it works okay. Basically, it just uses Facebook's business customer chat and embeds it on the site. There's a few ways that you can use WP Simple Chat to tweak for example, the message that shows here. Have a question about WP Simple Chat is a message that's specifically designed for this page. If you go to different pages on Groundhogg, you'll notice that the chat message is actually different. So if you're on the pricing page, the chat message will say, hey, do you have any questions about pricing specifically? So pretty nifty. It's, I have to admit, the Facebook chat messenger system can be a little bit finicky on some browsers like Safari. Fortunately, the vast majority of people use Chrome these days, and it works really, really well on Chrome. So if that's not so much of an issue for you, then yeah, go use WP Simple Chat. There's no specific Groundhogg integration for, say, for example, if someone messages us on chat, that information does not get sent to Groundhogg. But that's okay. Because it just makes it really easy. For example, if you're logged into Facebook, you can just log in as yourself and we already have all of your information. So it makes connecting really easy. It removes the barrier to entry of having people fill out their first name, last name, and email address, which I find is unnecessary for most chat communications. Frankly, if someone gets off chat and they have zero intent on purchasing, emailing them is not going to make that relationship better anyway. Typically, the way that we see chat is they have already kind of like a medium to high readiness to buy. So they already have a specific level of intent to find out more. If that chat goes south and they end up saying, you know what, it's not for me, then following up that person is not going to change their mind. So getting the information from chat to Groundhogg, not a huge issue for me personally. If your niche may differ. However, we find that it works really, really well and it creates a low barrier to entry. They also added this new continue as guest option, which I'm not actually a fan of, but what it does is essentially if you don't have Facebook, then you can continue as a guest so that your identity is not revealed. This makes it a little bit more difficult for us in order to communicate with you. However, it is an option that exists, and I don't think you can disable it at this point. So it's a toss-up, but it works. It's there. It's what we use. So if you want to give it a shot, go give it a shot and find out if it works for you. Rick says, thanks, that's helpful. Well, I'm glad it's helpful. Andrew asks, how would you set it up to stop when the clients get back to them? So if a client replies to if you want to stop a funnel when a client replies to an email, you have to manually do that. Unfortunately, there's no system for they replied, stop the funnel. That's not something that we do at the moment. So if you wanted to stop it, you'd have to open the specific contact record. You could go to the activity tab and we can see that this person's lead magnet funnel is about to run. We can go ahead and we can just cancel that event, and that funnel is essentially stopped at that point. So you'd have to open up the contact record in the CRM and then go ahead and manually stop it if you wanted to base it on reply. If you wanted to base it on some sort of other action, like they opened an email or they bought something or a tag was applied, also all doable. In those cases, what you would do is you just stick a benchmark at the end of the funnel, for example, tag applied, and once they got that tag, they would exit them out of the funnel essentially. So that's essentially how that would work, Andrew. But based on a reply, that you'd have to do that manually. I hope that answers your question. Okay, so that is it for some of the questions that I've received in the chat here. So we are still in our Q&A period, everyone. So if you have a question that you'd like to ask, now is definitely the time to do so. There are no silly questions. We're all here at different stages and trying to learn and kind of get through the day. So if you need something that you'd like an answer to, then what you need to do is you need to pop in chat right now and let us know what that is so we can help you. I'm going to give it 30 seconds, and then I'm just going to start rambling on about some thoughts that are going around in my head that I think are helpful. So if you have a question, you got 30 seconds to do so. And I'd love to share some answers with you. Is there water in here? It's a little bit. Mark Williams asks, any further consideration to add log and delete option to the SendGrid plugin? It's one of the reasons I can't use Groundhogg, the Groundhogg plugin. No, I'll be honest. It's in our feature request log, of which you know is quite extensive. We're actually really focused on a few other things at this point in time. You may be familiar, or you may or may not be familiar, that we've been working on a new funnel editor for the last however many months, which looks pretty freaking awesome. And that's kind of where our development focus at this time. We have a small lean team, and we're pretty much working around the clock in order to bring this to you as quickly as possible. So this is where our effort is going in at the moment. However, there is an alternative solution for you. There is a plugin called WP Mail Logging. And I know the developer, and he's a great guy. We actually were talking about contributing to each other's projects a little bit and adding specific information. So it's by Sudard. So email log. So there's two of them. So there's email log here, which is really good. There's also WP Mail Logging, which is now owned by MailPoet. This will log all emails that go out of WordPress, regardless of the plugin that's sending them. So all of our integrations use the built-in WP Mail system along with all of the hooks and filters in order to make compatibility for extensions like these. So if you want to use something like this, Mark, this is a potential alternative option for you. Rather than us having to go ahead and create it from scratch, this one is kind of like a pre-baked solution, which is compatible with the Groundhogg SendGrid integration. So you may want to do that. Link Moore says, I can't find the data from my form when customers submit. You're gonna have to qualify that. Do you mean that the customer information is not inputted into the CRM, or you want to see the specific form data? I'm gonna need a little bit more information, Link, in order to make any sort of usable advice. So if you can just give me a follow-up on that link and describe your issue in a little bit more detail, I'm happy to help you out. Okay, so while Link comes up with his follow-up, I'm just going to share a question that I got in the group. And let me go ahead and find it. And it was in regards to our webinar coming up with Uncanny Automator. For those who are just joining the call, we do have an upcoming webinar with Uncanny Automator. We're going to be talking about how you can pretty much automate just about everything in your WordPress site. Uncanny Automator is basically a self-hosted Zapier. Connects WordPress plugins, it connects WordPress plugins and SaaS services, it connects WordPress and WordPress plugins. It does everything. They just built a wicked Groundhogg integration, so you can do stuff like someone signs up in Groundhogg, add them to like a Zoom webinar, or someone signs up in Zoom and add them to Groundhogg, and there's lots of cool stuff that you can do based on that. But someone on the thread when I posted this in Facebook Jess asked, I'm curious why an automation tool, Groundhogg, would use Zoom's registration page for a webinar. We are promoting this webinar just on our Zoom registration page, and we have our sign up there. I'm looking to set up webinar registrations, and I've installed Groundhogg this past week. I assumed I'd be setting up a form on my website to integrate with Groundhogg with CRM. Now that I see you're offering the webinar through Zoom, I'm questioning best practices. So the question is essentially, you guys are like a marketing automation platform with registrations and funnels and all of this stuff. Why would you just use the Zoom's registration page and not set up your own? And that's a valid question. Why would we just kind of use the Zoom registration page? And it comes down to a few things. Number one, time. It takes time to set up funnels, registration, and all of that stuff. It takes money. I have to either do it myself, and my time is valuable, or I have to pay someone to do it, and their time is valuable. My staff's time is valuable. It comes down to recurrence. So this webinar is happening one time. And it's going to be just this one time and one time only. It may happen next year. It may happen in the future again. We may do another one, but for now, in the foreseeable future, it's happening one time. There's a question of return on investment. Am I expected to make any money from this webinar? Probably not. It's me hosting somebody else, and generally it's the guest that kind of kills it. And the host is just gracious and happy that they can support the cause. So there's a question of ROI, and there's a question of efficiency. So taking all of that into account, is it worth it to go ahead and build an entire funnel, registration process, landing page on the site, pay for the integration for Zapier or Uncanny and set it up and do all of that work for something that's going to last an hour on a Thursday afternoon? Probably not. Not unless you've done it 1,000 times and you're really quick at doing it and you have a formula written down and it's good enough, right? In this case, it's good enough to just use what you have and what's the tools that are available that makes it the easiest and most effective possible. Regardless of whether this landing page is on our domain, on groundhogg.io, or on a subdomain with the funnel and the registration emails and all that stuff, regardless of whether the funnel is hosted there or the landing page is hosted here on Zoom, people are still going to register and people are still going to sign up. Zoom has built-in reminders, so I don't have to configure all of the reminder emails to go out. And besides, I just send a broadcast email to the whole list anyway. So there's a lot of things. And at the end of the day, it comes down to, as an entrepreneur, what's the least amount of effort that you can put in order to get the best result? More effort does not always equal better results. And I don't say that to mean like I didn't put any effort into this. Obviously, it took time to create the graphics, get the logos, write the description, put together the bios and all of that. That took effort. But it took less effort than going and creating a whole landing page on our domain, setting up the styling, setting up the registration funnel, doing all of that. That would have taken more effort, and I probably, for the effort, would have not gotten any better result in terms of registration and attendance. And when it's early days in a company and when, money matters and you're not rolling in it and you have stuff to do and things to accomplish and people to please, when you have an opportunity to get the same result for less effort, you always choose the one that's less effort. Except when it comes to building software. I should mention that when we build our software, we put monumental amounts of effort, and we go above and beyond exponentially because that stuff is kind of mission critical and matters. When it comes to landing pages and where you're hosting it and how people are receiving the reminders emails, not so much. People will still register, people will still show up. So if you have an opportunity between less effort and more effort and essentially the same results for each, choose less effort. And that's a little bit of advice and a little bit of wisdom and a little bit of reasoning for why we decided to not go down the route of creating a whole custom registration process for Groundhogg in this particular webinar. Down the road, when we've done a few more of these webinars with a few more people, we'll know a little bit more about the processes and the systems, and we can create a more effective and a less effort or an effortless registration process through Groundhogg. However, we have not done that yet. So maybe in the future. But for now, what we have is we just have when someone signs up for the webinar on Zoom, they get added to the CRM. Good enough. And we'll call it a day after that. Link Moore says, he has a follow-up question to, he's added custom fields to the form and he's not sure where to see them in Groundhogg. I don't see where it is stored. So Link, what I think you need is the advanced custom meta fields add-on, which is included in all of the plans that we offer. It looks like it's not indexed. There we go. So Link, I think what you need is this. So this will allow you to create some UI within the contact record that will actually go ahead and display your custom fields. So go ahead and download this and get started with this. If you still can't really figure out, you're welcome to reach out to our support team. But what I'm thinking for is this. So you can add a custom tab. You can add fields, descriptions, sections of that tab. And this will allow you to essentially map data from your form to the UI in the contact record. Super easy, super simple, and should take you all of maybe 10 minutes in order to set up for the first time. Matt Fraser is asking, I'm trying to decide whether or not I should bite the bullet and buy a membership plugin or use the content restrictions extension. I have 2 levels, one for users who buy a book and one for people who buy a course. Can I do this with the content restriction extension, or should I bite the bullet and buy a membership plugin? Great question. Really, the sky's the limit. So at the beginning, I mean, I've always been of the mentality that you should build MVPs before investing heavily, because you don't know what works yet, right? We create theories as entrepreneurs and we create projections and we all of these things, but when shit hits the fan, we don't really know what's going to go down. So the best we have is our predictions, and sometimes our predictions are way off. I know that in the beginning, my projections were way off, and I had to make a lot of changes in this business in order to make it viable and sustainable in the long term. So before you go down the road of investing tons of money in developing a membership with all of the plans, I'd recommend that you use the tools available to you in order to essentially test out the way that you want to build it, using the Groundhogg content restriction add-on plus really simple payments. That's like a membership plugin in and of itself right there. And you can go ahead and you can just test that out. And once you basically outgrow it, which I have no doubt you will, they are simple plugins at the end of the day, and they're meant to just kind of get you off the ground and get started. Once you outgrow that, we'll probably have the money to go invest in membership plugin and build out a more complex site. On the back note, you did mention course, and I would like to recommend that LifterLMS has a membership component in it, so you don't actually require a membership plugin if you're using something like LifterLMS, which does courses, which does e-commerce, which does membership. It does pretty much everything. So if you want kind of like a one-size-fits-all for membership and course distribution, I would go check out LifterLMS. All you really need is the Stripe plugin, which is like $99 a year US. And that'll pretty much cover you. We use LifterLMS on the Groundhogg Academy site. It does membership, it does payments, it does pretty much everything for like $99. So Matt, maybe that's an option that you would like to go down as well. But MVP, minimum viable product to start. That's my recommendation. The less effort and the less money and investment that you can put in creating a viable product is probably the best path. Over time, you'll learn what works, what doesn't work, and eventually you'll outgrow it, and eventually you'll make more investment, as is natural in any business. Setting it up from the get-go is doable, but it doesn't always work out the way that we intended, and things change. So that would be my recommendation to you, Matt. Andrew Zimble asks, how can you tell which add-ons are active and which ones are best to have installed? Well, you install add-ons on a need-to-have basis. If you need functionality, you install it. If you don't need it, you don't install it. I know Paul is working with you, so Paul probably has that under lock and key already. However, if you're looking for a way to check, if you have the Groundhogg extensions which I don't have here. Maybe it'll be in... If you have the Groundhogg extension installer installed, or Groundhogg extension helper installed rather, then you'll have a page under Groundhogg called extensions. If I go ahead and click on that, that's going to show all of the extensions that you have access to, and it'll show whether it's active or it's not. So you can see an install and activate button if it's installed and not active, or sorry, it's not installed and not active, and you'll see an active button if it's currently active in your site. So that's a quick way to check which ones you have. You do not need all of these necessarily. There's overlap between extensions for specific integrations. So it's really on a need to have basis on a per site basis. So if you're using AWS, you'll want us to install the AWS integration. If you want advanced custom fields, you want advanced custom fields installed, et cetera, et cetera. So this is how you can check, Andrew. Hopefully that answers your question. Thank you. All right, we're approaching the top of the hour here. We're at the 51-minute mark. So we're going to open the floor one last time to questions. Anything is fair game, whether it's about Groundhogg or extensions, you want a demo of something, you need something explained in a funnel. You have questions about best practices, about how long your email should be, how many links in an email there should be. Anything is up for grabs, so please go ahead and take the next 30 seconds to think of a question, post that in the comments, in the chat there, and we'll answer it. And if not, then we're going to start wrapping up office hours. Andrew's asking, do you have a good way to send out a newsletter with pictures? You should just be able to embed pictures in your newsletter at any point in time. If you're looking for, so if you want the kind of like the drag and drop email editor, which I believe you have from my support tickets or handling support tickets in your site before, if you have the advanced features active, you're going to want to make sure that the advanced email editor is active. Save changes, emails. When you're adding an email or developing an email, you can just go ahead and drag an image block into there and select an image from your media library, of which I don't have any. Let's go ahead and upload one. Here we can get a nice picture of my face. There we go. So there we go. And when you send that, that should simply just work. If it's not working, then there's a technical issue, and you're going to have to take that up with our support. Kurt's saying that GIFs work in the newsletter too. Yes, I love sending GIFs and emails. I don't do it as much anymore because Gmail is kind of picky about some of the GIFs that you use. But if I Google something like Groundhog Day GIF, let's go ahead and see what we get from Groundhog Day GIF. Let's go ahead and copy image address. So you can modify the link to the image directly. So if you're embedding something like a GIF from an external source like Giphy, then you can go ahead and you can select the GIF, excuse me, I'm losing my voice a little bit. You can insert the direct image, the direct link to that image. It doesn't necessarily need to be hosted on your site. So there we go. We have an image of Phil doing something that I probably shouldn't say live for fear of being flagged by Facebook. Okay. All right. I think that covers it for questions today. I want to thank everybody for participating. and sharing your questions with me. I hope everybody was able to get some use out of it. If you need more help beyond what this call was able to provide, we have a few resources for you. You can go to Groundhogg Academy and take a few of our free courses. We have a couple of new ones there. We have a customer onboarding masterclass. We have the ultimate review generator funnel, which is super awesome, which is in there. I probably should have added that to the announcements, but I forgot. So we have a new course. Will Middleton put it together. Will Middleton is an awesome trainer, and he created the customer onboarding masterclass, how to create your customer onboarding funnel to maximize retention and reduce churn. Really, really, really awesome. Shows you how to create fanatic customers, decrease churn by implementing superior customer onboarding strategies. This course is, of course, free, as are all of our courses, except for the Certified Partner one. So go ahead and take that, register for that, and get yourself set up. Really, really, really good stuff there. So where was I? Right, I was ending the call. So if you need implementation help, what I would recommend is you go to our certified partner directory and you find yourself a certified partner. We also have a partner RFP process. So if you just want us to hook you up with somebody, you can send us your information and we will set you up with a certified partner. If you have or know someone that might be able to use Groundhogg, either a colleague or a friend or a family member who's starting their business, then you can earn 10% recurring commissions from anything that they buy. Go to affiliate area /registration to learn more about how to sign up. If you're not following us, you should be. We're on all social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram, handle @GroundhoggWP. If you have not yet left a review, reviews make the world go round for us, essentially. We love getting 5-star reviews and seeing what other people think of our stuff and our support. We have 59 5-star reviews right now. Whoever leaves a review at the end of this call will be number 60, which is a pretty big number. So thanks in advance to that person. You can go to our wordpress.org /plugins /groundhogg, which is our wordpress.org repositories page, to leave a 5-star review. If you have additional questions beyond what we were able to answer in this call, a few ways that you can go ahead and ask those questions. You can go to the Facebook group. That's exactly what it's there for. It's there for your questions. You can continue to comment on the thread. We're monitoring it. You can message us on live chat, open a ticket, email us. Lots of ways to get in touch. So I want to thank everybody for spending the last hour with me. I know we have other stuff to do. I know we're all busy people. I know we could be doing other things. So thanks for spending the time with me. I'm super appreciative. Office hours will continue next Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will see everybody then. Until then, have a wonderful day.